Hello and welcome to the life story of William Shakespeare, the greatest writer in the English language. He is known all over the world. Even today, people read his plays, study his poetry, and watch his stories on stage and in movies. His words are powerful, his characters are deep, and his ideas are still important today. William Shakespeare was born in England in the year 1564. He lived more than 400 years ago, but his work is still alive. He wrote about love, friendship, power, fear, dreams, and everything people feel. That is why people from every country and every language can enjoy his stories. They are for everyone. Shakespeare did not come from a rich family. He grew up in a small town called Stratford-upon-Avon. He went to school, but not to university. Still, he became very smart and learned many things. He loved to read and listen. He learned about people, nature, and life. Later, he used all of this in his writing. As a young man, he moved to London. There, he became a writer and an actor. He worked hard every day. He wrote many plays, some were happy, and some were sad. He also wrote 154 sonnets, which are beautiful short poems about love and time. Shakespeare did not have a computer or a phone. He only had paper, ink, and his imagination. But he created stories that changed the world. His plays like Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, and Macbeth are still read and performed everywhere. What makes Shakespeare special is his deep understanding of people. He could describe love, anger, sadness, and hope better than anyone. His words help us understand life. His characters are real. They feel, think, and change. He also helped grow the English language. He made new words and phrases. Some common phrases we use today came from his writing. Shakespeare's story is inspiring. He shows us that we do not need to be rich or famous to be great. We need passion, hard work, and imagination. He started from a small town and became one of the most famous people in history. Even after hundreds of years, people still study and love his work. In schools, universities, theaters, and homes, his stories continue to teach us and touch our hearts. This episode will take you on a journey through Shakespeare's life, his beginnings, his success, and his powerful legacy. You will hear about the man behind the plays. You will learn how he became a voice for all time. So, let us begin the story of William Shakespeare, the boy from Stratford who became the world's greatest storyteller. Chapter 1. Early Life and Family. William Shakespeare was born in the year 1564 in a town called Stratford-upon-Avon, in England. This town was small, quiet, and surrounded by green fields and nature. William was born on April 23rd, or at least that is the date many people believe. He was also baptized on April 26th in the local church. William's father was John Shakespeare. He worked as a glove maker. He also sold leather and other goods. John was a hard-working man. He became an important person in the town. He was part of the town council and once even became the mayor. William's mother was Mary Arden. She came from a rich farming family. Her family owned land and had many animals. Mary was kind and caring. She raised William and his brothers and sisters with love and care. William had a big family. He was the third child of 8 children. Some of his brothers and sisters died when they were very young, which was common in those days. William grew up playing in the town, helping his family, and learning about the world around him. As a child, William went to a local grammar school. The school was free, and only boys could go. At school, he learned to read and write. He also studied Latin, grammar, and poetry. These lessons were not easy, but William was a smart student. He read many books and loved stories. After school, William often helped his father in the shop. He saw how people worked and talked. He listened to many different voices and watched people's behavior. These small details later helped him to create real, living characters in his plays. We do not know everything about William's early years. There are no many records from that time. But we believe that he was curious, creative, and full of ideas. He loved to listen and to learn. He saw the beauty in nature and the drama in everyday life. When William was about 18 years old, he married a woman named Anne Hathaway. She was older than him. They had 3 children, Susanna, and twins named Hamnet and Judith. William worked hard to support his family, but soon he left Stratford to go to London. There, he would begin his life as a writer and actor. William's early life in Stratford gave him many things. It gave him stories, knowledge, and love. It taught him about people, emotions, and life. These things became part of his great writing. This was the beginning of William Shakespeare's journey. From a small boy in Stratford to the most famous writer in history, his story started with a simple life, a loving family, and a strong mind ready to dream. Chapter 2: Education and Youth. William Shakespeare's early education began in his hometown, Stratford-upon-Avon. He was lucky to go to school at a time when not every child could. The school he went to was called the King's New School. It was a grammar school, and it was free for boys. Girls were not allowed to attend school during those times. William started school at around the age of 7. The building was simple, with wooden benches and big windows. The classes were not easy. Students studied for many hours every day, from early morning to late afternoon. They also had school on Saturdays. At school, William learned how to read and write. He also studied Latin, which was the language of ancient Rome. In those days, Latin was very important for people who wanted to learn or work in government, church, or writing. William read Latin books, poems, and stories. He studied grammar rules and learned how to translate between Latin and English. The students also read many classical stories, such as those about Roman heroes, gods, and great adventures. These stories later helped William when he began to write his own plays. He used ideas and characters from what he had read in school. William also learned about the Bible and religious texts, as religion was a big part of life in England at that time. He studied how to speak clearly and how to think carefully. These skills helped him become a great speaker and writer. Outside of school, William likely spent time playing with friends, helping his family, and watching people in the market and town. He listened to many stories told by travelers, farmers, and workers. He learned about the joys and problems of everyday life. All of this helped him to understand people better. Not much is known about Shakespeare's teenage years. Historians call this time the lost years, because there are no records of what he did. We know that when he was 18, he married Anne Hathaway. She was 26 years old. A year later, they had their first daughter, Susanna. 2 years after that, they had twins, Hamnet and Judith. During his youth, William was already a thinker and observer. He watched the world with open eyes. He may not have gone to university, but his learning did not stop. He kept reading, listening, and thinking. He learned from books, but he also learned from life. Shakespeare's education and youth gave him a strong base for his future. The things he learned in school, and the people he met in his young life, became part of his writing later. His school lessons helped him with language, but his daily life gave him the heart and soul to tell stories that touched the world. This part of his life was simple, but it was also full of learning. It was the time when William Shakespeare began to grow into the great writer he would become. Chapter 3: Arrival in London. After getting married and starting a family in Stratford-upon-Avon, William Shakespeare made a big decision. He left his hometown and went to London. He wanted to follow his dream of becoming a writer and actor. No one knows the exact year he moved, but many believe it was in the late 1580s or early 1590s. London was very different from Stratford. It was big, busy, and full of people from many places. The streets were noisy, with horses, carriages, shopkeepers, and crowds. The city was full of life, music, and ideas. For a young man like Shakespeare, it was exciting and full of chances. When Shakespeare arrived in London, he did not have much money. He was not famous yet. But he had something special, a gift for words and a deep understanding of people. He started working with a theater company. At first, he may have done small jobs like helping backstage or acting in small roles. Soon, people noticed his talent. He began writing plays for the theatre. His first known works were performed in London in the early 1590s. These included Henry VI and Titus Andronicus. The audiences liked them. Shakespeare's name started to grow. He joined a theatre group called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. This group performed plays for the public and sometimes for the Queen. They became very popular. Shakespeare wrote for them, and he also acted in some of their plays. He was not just a writer, he was also a man of the stage. At that time, London had many theatres. One of the most famous was the theatre, where many of Shakespeare's early plays were shown. Later, the company built their own playhouse, the Globe Theatre. This would become the home of many of his greatest works. Even though Shakespeare lived and worked in London, he often visited his family in Stratford. He sent money home to support them. He was a man who cared about his family, even when far away. His arrival in London was the start of something great. In this city, he found his voice, his stage, and his audience. He met other writers, actors, and thinkers. He learned more about the world and used that knowledge in his writing. Shakespeare's London life was not easy. The city had problems like sickness, crime, and fire. But it also had beauty, art, and theatre. Shakespeare used everything he saw and heard to write plays that people still love today. This chapter in his life was full of change and courage. Leaving home was not easy, but it helped him grow. In London, William Shakespeare began his journey to becoming one of the greatest writers in the world. From small beginnings, in a big city, his dreams started to come true. Chapter 4. The Globe Theatre and Acting Career. When William Shakespeare lived in London, the theatre world was full of life and excitement. Plays were a big part of the city's culture. People from all walks of life came to watch performances, from rich nobles to poor workers. Shakespeare became a very important part of this world. One of the most famous theatres in history is the Globe Theatre. It opened in the year 1599. William Shakespeare was not just a writer for this theatre. He was also part owner. That means he helped pay to build it, and he earned money from its success. The Globe Theatre was a round, wooden building with no roof in the middle. It could hold around 3,000 people. There was a large stage where actors performed. Some people stood near the stage, and others sat in higher seats. The cheapest tickets were for the people who stood. They were called groundlings. They were loud and active, and they loved the show. The theater had no lights or microphones. All the plays were performed in the daytime, using only natural light. Actors wore colorful costumes and used their voices and actions to tell the story. There were no women actors. All female roles were played by young boys or men. Shakespeare's company, first called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, later became the King's Men when King James I gave them royal support. This was a big honor. It also helped Shakespeare and his company grow in fame and money. Shakespeare did not only write the plays, he also acted in them. He enjoyed being on stage. He usually played small roles, but he was a true man of the theater. He knew what actors needed to bring the story to life. That's why his plays are full of great lines and strong characters. Some of his most famous plays were first performed at the Globe. These include Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. The people loved these stories. They were full of drama, love, fear, power, and dreams. Every play brought something new and exciting. The Globe Theatre became a symbol of Shakespeare's success. It was a place where his stories came alive. Sadly, the original Globe was destroyed by fire in 1613 during a performance. But it was rebuilt a year later. Today, a modern version of the Globe stands in London. People from all over the world visit it to learn about Shakespeare and to watch his plays. William Shakespeare's acting career helped him understand the theatre deeply. He knew how people talked, moved, and felt. This helped him write better and make his characters more real. His time with the Globe Theatre and his acting career were full of hard work, passion, and success. This chapter of his life shows how much he loved the stage, not just with words, but with his whole heart. Chapter 5. Early Plays and Comedies. When William Shakespeare began writing plays in London, he was still a young man full of energy and big ideas. His first works were full of action, love, jokes, and surprises. Many of his early plays were comedies. These plays made people laugh, but they also showed the smart and creative side of Shakespeare. Shakespeare's early plays were first performed in the 1590s. One of his first known plays was Henry VI, a history play about kings and wars. But soon, he started writing comedies, fun stories with happy endings. One of his earliest comedies was The Two Gentlemen of Verona. This play is about two young friends, love, and a funny dog. It shows the beginning of Shakespeare's style, full of friendship, love problems, and happy endings. Another early comedy is The Taming of the Shrew. This play tells the story of a strong woman named Katrina and a man named Petruchio. It is full of jokes, clever language, and big emotions. It also shows how people try to change each other in love. A Midsummer Night's Dream is one of Shakespeare's most famous comedies. It has magic, fairies, dreams, and lovers in a forest. This play makes people laugh, but it also teaches that love can be confusing, funny, and sometimes silly. The play is full of light, music, and wonder. The Comedy of Errors is a very funny play with two sets of twins. They look the same, and this causes many problems and funny moments. People mix them up, and everything becomes a big mess until the truth is found. The play moves quickly and makes the audience laugh again and again. Much Ado About Nothing is another great comedy. It has two main love stories. One is full of serious feelings, and the other is full of jokes and funny fights. The play shows how people fall in love, fight, and come back together. In his comedies, Shakespeare often used tricks, mistakes, and surprises. People dressed up in disguise, changed names, or hid their true feelings. At the end of the play, everything is solved. The lovers are happy, and there is usually a wedding. Even though the comedies were funny, Shakespeare also added smart ideas. He wrote about real problems, like how men and women treat each other, or how people pretend to be someone they are not. He did this with light and laughter, which made people enjoy the play but also think about life. His early comedies helped him become famous. People loved coming to the theater to laugh, cheer, and forget their troubles for a little while. These plays made Shakespeare popular with the people of London. William Shakespeare's early comedies were the beginning of his great journey as a writer. They were full of joy, clever words, and love. These plays showed his gift for making people smile, a gift that still works today, more than 400 years later. Chapter 6. Tragedies and Masterpieces. After writing many happy and funny plays, William Shakespeare began to write something different: tragedies. These are sad plays that talk about deep feelings like love, pain, fear, anger, and death. In tragedies, the main characters usually have a big problem or make a bad choice, and this leads to a sad ending. These plays are called masterpieces because they are some of the best works in English literature. One of Shakespeare's most famous tragedies is Romeo and Juliet. It is a story about two young people who fall in love. But their families are enemies, and they are not allowed to be together. Romeo and Juliet try to find a way to live in peace, but things go wrong. In the end, both of them die. The story is sad but beautiful. It shows the power of love and the pain of hate. Another great tragedy is Hamlet. This play is about a prince whose father, the king, has died. Hamlet learns that his uncle killed the king and took the throne. He wants to take revenge but is full of doubts. Hamlet says the famous words, "to be or not to be," which means he is thinking deeply about life and death. This play is full of emotion, mystery, and powerful ideas. Othello is a play about a great soldier who is tricked by a jealous man named Iago. Othello begins to believe lies and loses trust in his wife. The play shows how jealousy can destroy love and lives. It is sad and powerful. King Lear is a story about an old king who gives his land to his daughters. But he makes a big mistake and chooses the wrong daughters. The play talks about family, pride, and loss. It is one of Shakespeare's most moving stories. Another dark and famous tragedy is Macbeth. Macbeth is a brave man, but he wants to be king. He and his wife plan to kill the king to take his place. After that, they cannot stop doing bad things. In the end, they lose everything. The play shows how wanting too much power can destroy a person. These tragedies are not just sad, they are full of deep questions. They make us think about right and wrong, life and death, love and hate. That is why they are called masterpieces. People have watched and read them for more than 400 years. Shakespeare wrote about human feelings in a way no one had done before. He showed that everyone, rich or poor, young or old, can feel pain, joy, hope, and fear. His tragedies help us understand life better. These plays were not only for the rich. People from all walks of life came to watch them. They laughed, cried, and learned. Shakespeare's tragedies changed theater forever. With his powerful words and deep stories, William Shakespeare gave the world something that will never be forgotten, his timeless masterpieces. Chapter 7: Sonnets and Poetry. William Shakespeare is known for his famous plays, but he also wrote beautiful poetry. His poems are full of feelings, thoughts, and strong images. One of the most special kinds of poems he wrote is called a sonnet. A sonnet is a short poem with 14 lines. Each line has 10 syllables, and the poem follows a special rhythm and rhyme. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets, and many people still read and love them today. Shakespeare's sonnets are about many things. Some are about love, some are about time, and some are about beauty or even death. He wrote about how love can be strong, sad, or full of hope. He also wrote about how time can change people and things, but true love stays the same. One of his most famous sonnets is Sonnet 18, which begins with the line, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" In this poem, Shakespeare compares a person he loves to a warm summer day. But he says the person is even better because summer does not last, but his love will stay forever in the poem. This sonnet is a favorite for many people around the world. Another important poem is Sonnet 130. In this sonnet, Shakespeare writes about a woman he loves. He says her eyes are not like the sun, her lips are not red like roses, and her voice is not music. But he still loves her truly. The poem teaches that real love does not need perfect beauty, it is honest and strong. Shakespeare also wrote 2 long poems called Venus and Adonis, and The Rape of Lucrece. These poems are about love, pain, and tragedy. They were very popular when they were published. People loved his way of using words and painting pictures with them. Shakespeare's poetry was very important in his time. When theaters closed during the plague, he could not write plays, so he wrote poems instead. These poems helped him earn money and become more famous. His poems are full of metaphors, similes, and beautiful imagery. A metaphor is when we say something is something else to show its meaning. For example, time is a thief, means time takes things away from us. Shakespeare used this kind of language to make his poems deep and interesting. Even today, people read and study Shakespeare's sonnets and poetry in schools and universities. His words touch people's hearts. His poems help us understand emotions and show how powerful language can be. William Shakespeare's poetry is not just old writing. It is full of life, feeling, and beauty. His sonnets still speak to people because they are honest, simple, and true. Through his poems, Shakespeare shows us that love, time, and truth are part of every human story. In his sonnets and poetry, we hear Shakespeare's heart, and it still speaks clearly, even after 400 years. Chapter 8: Royal Patronage and Success. As William Shakespeare's plays became more popular, important people began to notice his work. One of the most powerful people who enjoyed his plays was Queen Elizabeth I. She ruled England while Shakespeare was writing many of his early plays. She loved the theater and often supported actors and writers. This support from the Queen was very special. It helped Shakespeare become more successful. When a person of high status liked your work, more people came to see it. The Queen gave Shakespeare and his theater group great respect. His plays were sometimes performed in front of her and the royal court. These shows were called royal performances. Shakespeare's theatre group was first called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, named after their sponsor, the Lord Chamberlain. But everything changed in 1603, when King James I became the new King of England. He also liked Shakespeare's plays. He gave the group his royal support, and they became known as the King's Men. Being part of the King's Men was a great honor. It meant the group had royal protection. They could perform their plays at court and in public theaters like the Globe. This support gave Shakespeare more money and more fame. It also gave him the chance to write more amazing plays. During this time, Shakespeare wrote some of his best works, including Macbeth, King Lear, and Othello. These plays were enjoyed by both the royal family and the common people. Everyone came to see the shows, rich and poor, young and old. With the success of his plays, Shakespeare also became a businessman. He earned money from writing, acting, and from owning a part of the Globe Theatre. This made him a wealthy man. He bought a large house in Stratford-upon-Avon and gave his family a good life. People respected him not just for his plays, but also for his hard work and intelligence. He was known as a man of great words and great wisdom. He showed that theatre could be more than just fun. It could teach lessons, ask big questions, and touch people's hearts. Royal patronage gave Shakespeare the freedom to write what he wanted. It also gave his group the chance to grow and succeed. His plays were performed many times, in many places. His words traveled across England and, later, across the world. By the end of his career, Shakespeare was one of the most famous writers in England. He was not born into a rich or noble family, but his talent and hard work brought him success. The support from kings and queens helped him reach even greater heights. This chapter in Shakespeare's life shows that true success comes from passion, effort, and belief. With the help of royal support, William Shakespeare became more than just a writer, he became a legend. Chapter 9. Later Years and Final Works. As William Shakespeare grew older, he began to slow down. He had already written many plays, acted on stage, and earned fame and money. In his later years, he spent more time in his hometown, Stratford-upon-Avon, with his family. Even though he lived away from London, Shakespeare still wrote plays. These later plays were different from his early ones. They were not only comedies or tragedies. Many of them were romances or tragicomedies. These plays mixed serious and happy parts. They showed pain, but also forgiveness, hope, and new beginnings. One of his final plays was The Winter's Tale. It is a story about a king who makes a big mistake. He believes his wife is unfaithful, and this causes much sadness. But in the end, there is forgiveness and joy. The play shows that people can change and that love can heal pain. Another final play was The Tempest. This story is about a wise man named Prospero who lives on an island. He uses magic, but in the end, he forgives his enemies and gives up his power. Many people believe that Prospero was like Shakespeare himself, saying goodbye to the stage. These final plays had less fighting and more peace. They spoke of family, loss, time, and forgiveness. They showed that even after great sadness, there can be happiness again. During this time, Shakespeare also worked with other writers. He helped write plays like Henry VIII and The Two Noble Kinsmen. He stayed active in the theatre world, even if he was not always on the stage. Shakespeare had become a rich and respected man. He bought a big house called New Place in Stratford and lived there with his family. He also took care of his land and business. He spent time with his daughters and grandchildren. In 1616, William Shakespeare passed away at the age of 52. He died in Stratford, the town where his life began. He was buried at Holy Trinity Church, and his grave still stands there today. On his gravestone, there is a short poem that many believe he wrote himself. Though his life ended, his words did not. His plays and poems were collected by his friends and printed in a big book called the First Folio in 1623. This book helped save many of his works and gave them to the world. In his later years, Shakespeare gave us stories of wisdom, love, and peace. he showed that people can grow kinder with time. His final works remind us that life is not just about sorrow, but also about learning, forgiving, and starting again. The end of Shakespeare's life was calm and full of meaning. His last plays were like a soft goodbye, from a man who gave so much to the world through his words. Chapter 10: Death and Legacy. William Shakespeare lived a full and successful life. After many years of writing plays and poems, he returned to his hometown, Stratford-upon-Avon, to live quietly with his family. He had become a rich and respected man. He had written more than 30 plays, 154 sonnets, and many other poems. His name was known all over England. Shakespeare died on April 23, 1616, at the age of 52. It is interesting that he died on the same date many believe he was born. He was buried in Holy Trinity Church in Stratford. His grave is still there today, and many people visit it every year to remember him. On his grave, there is a short poem, written in Old English. It asks people not to move his bones. It is a simple message, but it shows that Shakespeare wanted to rest in peace in the place he loved. Though Shakespeare died, his work did not. After his death, two of his friends from the theatre, John Hemmings and Henry Condell, collected his plays and printed them in a big book. This book was called the First Folio, and it was published in 1623. Without this book, many of his plays might have been lost. Shakespeare's plays were not just for his time, they were for all time. People in England and around the world continued to read and perform his plays. His words were full of deep thoughts, strong emotions, and beautiful language. He showed what it means to be human, to love, to hate, to dream, and to feel. His legacy is very big. Schools teach his plays. Actors perform his stories in theaters and films. His words have become part of everyday English. Phrases like break the ice, love is blind, and all that glitters is not gold all come from his writing. Many people call Shakespeare the greatest writer in the English language. He was not a king, a soldier, or a rich man. But he gave the world something more powerful: his words. His plays speak to the hearts of people, no matter where they come from. Statues of Shakespeare stand in cities around the world. His birthplace in Stratford is now a museum. People travel from many countries to learn about his life and see the places he walked. Shakespeare's legacy is not just in books or theaters, it is in how we feel, think, and speak. He gave us stories that help us understand love, fear, jealousy, kindness, and hope. Even though William Shakespeare died more than 400 years ago, his spirit lives on. Through his plays and poems, he still talks to us. He still teaches us. He still makes us laugh and cry. This is the true legacy of William Shakespeare, a man whose words will never die. Vocabularies. 1. Playwright, a person who writes plays. 2. Theater, a place where people perform plays for an audience. 3. Sonnet, a short poem with 14 lines that follows a special pattern. 4. Tragedy, a sad story where the main character usually suffers or dies. 5. Comedy, a funny play that often has a happy ending. 6. Legacy, something a person leaves behind after they die, like ideas or work. 7. Fame, being known and respected by many people. 8. Performance, the act of acting in a play or show in front of people. 9. Patronage, support given by someone important, like a king or queen. 10. Forgiveness, the act of saying sorry is accepted, and the mistake is not punished. Quiz questions. 1. In which town was William Shakespeare born? 2. What language did Shakespeare study in school? 3. Why did Shakespeare move to London? 4. What was the name of the famous theatre Shakespeare helped build? 5. What type of plays did Shakespeare write in his early career that made people laugh? 6. What is the name of the play where Romeo and Juliet fall in love? 7. How many sonnets did William Shakespeare write? 8. Which king gave royal support to Shakespeare's theatre group? 9. What is the name of Shakespeare's play that takes place on an island and includes magic? 10. Where was William Shakespeare buried? Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed learning with us. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. Your support helps us grow and bring you more inspiring stories and easy English learning content. Do you have a topic you'd like us to cover in our next video? Maybe a famous person, an invention, or a country? Let us know in the comments or messages. We'd love to hear your ideas. You can find answers in the description. Thanks again, and keep learning with us. See you in the next video.